Hey, what's up guys? It's Ari with Fisher Motor Group, and today I am in arguably my most desired car of all time. It may sound a little bit weird, it's only a BMW, but it's a very cool BMW. This is a 2007 M5. It's the E60 generation. It has the V10 engine and is literally considered the last of BMW's bespoke performance racing engines that they built specifically for their road-going cars. Now, this engine is a 5-liter V10 making 507 horsepower, or about 100 horsepower per liter. Now, that's a very important threshold because not a whole lot of engines produce that kind of power at 100 horsepower per liter. Now, the other really unique thing about this engine, individual throttle bodies. So a lot of design work and philosophy was built into these engines. Now, a lot of tight tolerances, super high-tech manufacturing techniques for its time. Now, I will say it's pretty impressive that, you know, BMW did this because the reliability is just not that great with these vehicles. Now, that's not to say that I've had a whole lot of issues with them. It's essentially where that term, you gotta pay to play, this car made that statement. If you look up on the forums, you'll hear nothing but the V10 has horrible rod bearings, they blow the engine, intake actuators, they fail. So that does happen, those are some instances, but if you know what you're doing, you can actually source the parts relatively inexpensively and you can fix them yourself, which is awesome. Now, obviously, rod bearings you're not going to fix yourself unless you're a mechanic. That's a little bit more involved, obviously a little bit more expensive. Now, don't let that scare you away from this car because this car is insane. You're talking a 500 horsepower Formula 1 inspired V10 engine in a 4-door sedan. Ultimately, though, you know, people talk a lot of smack about these cars. They really just say how often they break and blah blah blah, and they're so unreliable and you should not buy one and stay away. Listen, if you can afford it, this really is the epitome of a BMW M car. It takes money to make money. You gotta pay to play. That's how I look at a lot of things in life, right? And this is no different, because the enjoyment, the excitement, the passion you get with driving a car like this does not come free. It's gonna come at a cost. But boy, when it's working, it is unlike anything else. Now, aesthetically, this car is very pleasing. It's got the Chris Bangle era styling. Some people like it, some people hate it. I love how the rear end of these cars look. The tail lights look like angel wings. The front looks gorgeous, especially the M5. On a regular 528, meh, not that great. But on the M cars, it's just unreal how good these things look, and they've really stood the test of time quite well. Interior wise, yeah, it's getting a little dated, but it's still very elegant, it's very classy, it's super sporty in the M cars. This car feels like you're really driving something special, something very unique and exotic. It doesn't have the regular automatic transmission, so it's not going to be super smooth like a regular automatic. The handling's super tight. The steering wheel, you can hit the M button and basically get a super stiff steering wheel if you want to. All the settings are adjustable. Suspension stiffness is adjustable. Throttle sensitivity is adjustable. You can go from 400 horsepower just putzing around to 500 horsepower with the push of a button. So I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff that you can adjust, and it's really quite impressive. So driving this M5 is really just a pleasure. I mean, it sounds like nothing else. It handles like nothing else. It's essentially a 4-door sedan, family sedan, that just rips. So why is this car arguably the ultimate super sedan? Well, there's a few reasons. Mainly because it looks killer, it handles very impressively. It has electronic damper control system, so you have a few different settings that you can adjust to either stiffen up the rebound and dampening. You can soften it up to make it more comfortable. You can leave it in normal mode, which is still pretty, you know, solid. But at no point does it ever feel like, you know, a lowered Honda Civic or something like that. It's just got so many cool tech features that for back in the day in 2006, 2007, it was just unheard of that you had all these features in a car like this. BMW created this S85 engine specifically for this car, specifically for the sequential manual gearbox. Now, people argue about the gearbox all the time. They don't like it. It does have a propensity to fail. The SMG pumps tend to go. That can be a costly item to repair. But when everything's running right, and this car's running how it should be, there is really nothing else like it. It's just the most incredible car to be behind the wheel of, because you literally feel and hear like you have a Lamborghini engine. You got the handling of a true sports car. You have the acceleration and brute force of 507 horsepower. It's truly unlike anything else around. Even to this day, you got the modern day M5s and M3s. Granted, those cars are very fast and they have a ton of torque because they are twin turboed. But the thing is, and they are faster than this car. But you have to realize, like, those engines are pretty much just production standard engines that they've tuned up a little bit, put bigger turbos on, and done a couple minor little tweaks to. Whereas this engine was literally drawn out on the design board to be specific only to this M5 and the M6s, as well as it's a true motorsport design. I mean, they were inspired by the BMW Formula 1 team, hence why you have a high revving V10 507 horsepower engine. Let's not forget too, this was one of the very first cars, production cars, that could break the 200-mile-an-hour speed barrier. That's impressive on its own. It sounds so good and it still has plenty of torque. Now that was the thing that was lacking quite a bit on the V8 and the M3, is that there's not a whole lot of torque. It's like 295 pound-feet of torque. This has 100 pound-feet of torque more than the V8. So you do actually get quite a nice kind of pushback in the seat. And the sound is just to die for. It sounds good. I mean, it sounds like truly an exotic supercar with 4 doors. Incredible car, especially nowadays, guys. Come on, if you can find a clean example of this car like this specific one I'm in, that I am actually selling for $16,500, you are insane to pass up. That is a hell of a deal. Unbelievable the kind of car you can get for under $20,000. You can't even buy a brand new Hyundai for under $20,000, and you are literally getting a flagship M car that has more heritage, that is a lot more bespoke and a lot more unique than even the new M cars today. I mean, this thing is smooth. It's just so smooth, and it goes. Oh my God. This car, just the shifting is so smooth. It just kicks you. 6,500 RPM and punch it. God damn, this thing pulls hard, man. This does have the SMG transmission, so it's a 7-speed single clutch automated manual. That means it's basically a manual transmission with a computer controlled clutch and a sequential gear shift lever. I tend to like these better than the manuals. I do know that that's kind of sacrilege. However, with that said, the car and this engine were not designed for a manual transmission, and once you kind of drive the two cars separately, you understand why. It requires a lot of shifting quite frequently, and to be honest, I had a manual M3 and it was just too much shifting. I prefer to have the 7-speed dual clutch, and to be honest, it's no different in this car. I would rather have the single clutch in this one than the 6-speed manual. Once you do get over that learning curve of how this car handles and how it drives with that SMG transmission, it's very easy. Like, you get used to that it shifts. The deeper you're into that throttle, the harder and more aggressive it's going to shift. So if you just kind of let your foot off a little bit of the gas while you're shifting, it's very smooth and very easy. It feels just like you'd be shifting, taking it easy, shifting a manual. Now, it does take a little while to get used to that, but once you got that under control, it's a very easy car to drive and it's very manageable. If you decide to get an E60 M5 and you get the SMG transmission, you have to shift your own gears. I don't care that it has an automatic mode. I don't care that you can bump the lever over twice and go into D mode for automatic. It's awkward, it's clunky, it's not the most sophisticated system. You're gonna wanna shift this thing manual all the time. Now, just putzing around, I mean, to be honest with you guys, this is my mile per gallon. That is awful, but well worth it, because this car delivers smiles per gallon like you would not believe. You must make it a bucket list to own an E60 M5. Forget all the people that are like, oh, that car's terrible, it's so expensive and runs down, and oh, it breaks down all the time, and rod bearings and SMG pumps and blah blah blah. You know, you could say that about pretty much every car on the market. There's not a single car that does not have an issue, let alone a serious issue. The Corvettes had bad cams. They had bad valves. The springs would break. The valve stems would snap, grenading the engines. What else? Lamborghinis, Audis, all of them, they all have serious issues. That's my point. So don't let that stop you from owning an incredible piece of machinery. Now, obviously, the reason these cars are priced so low nowadays is because of the dreaded SMG pumps failing and the dreaded rod bearing failure. But that all just plays into, if you find a really clean, nice example car, you can get it for really cheap. Now, that does not mean it's very inexpensive to maintain. You need to still treat these cars as if they are $100,000 cars. They still require a lot of maintenance. They require a lot of patience. They require really a dedication unlike many other cars on the road. Now, some people like these cars and they think they're a race car, which they are to some degree. They're very luxury-oriented, sophisticated, road-going race car that can be very temperamental, that have very tight tolerances, that are very specific, niche. Now, they like to get these cars and just beat the hell out of them. They'll rag on them, they'll drive them as hard as they can, they neglect the oil changes, and they blow up. They don't like being abused. Sure, you gotta get on them once in a while, enjoy it, step on the throttle, let it rip up to 8,200 RPM, that's what it's for. Just don't be doing that every single place you go like a madman, because chances are it's not gonna hold up too long. Now, daily drivability. Is this car a good daily drive car? Absolutely, it is. If you don't mind visiting the gas station every 2 days, absolutely, it's a wicked daily drive car. It can handle it as long as, like I said, you put in the time, the patience, and you spend the money on maintenance. It'll easily be a daily driver. Now, it's going to be pretty hard, and you're probably going to get sick of seeing gas stations, so if you don't like pumping gas, this is not the car for you. However, if you like 500 horsepower at the drop of a hat, you like the sound of a Lamborghini and a four-door sedan, and you just love the subtle attention this thing grabs, then absolutely daily drive this thing. If you're looking for ultimate reliability and relaxation and comfort, no, probably not. I wish I could show more videos of me driving it outside of the car, but that takes more people, which I don't have at the moment. My schedule is super busy, obviously, being a full-time dealer. But I hope that you guys can really see how interesting and unique and important this car really is. It set the bar so incredibly high for its time that a lot of other manufacturers couldn't even keep up. Audi came out with an RS6 that had a V10. That was pretty close, but it just lacked that design. You know, the design cues on that car, I think, were personally, I think, are ugly. This car is very attractive. It's very elegant. It's very strong and aggressive looking without being too over the top in your face like nowadays cars are, where everything's carbon fiber and vents and grills and notches and, you know, fenders and wheels and exhaust, and they have almost gone a little too over the top. This car is a lot more refined. It's a lot more simple and subtle in the way it displays its power. So what do you guys think? Do you think the M5 is a nice car? Would you like to own one? I mean, you'd be crazy if you wouldn't. Let me know in the comments below. Have you guys had experiences with the M5s? Have you really got to experience the beautiful power of an S85 V10 engine? Let me know in the comments. What else you guys would like to see? Let me know if you have any questions about whatever it is, being a dealer, business, in general, what it's like to run a small business. Just let me know in the comments. Alright guys, this is Ari, and I'll see you on the next one. See ya!